So in our first story for today, we know in the past year, big tech companies have been transforming the energy landscape, searching to power their hyperscale data centers. Now they've bought up all the power that was already available to them, and now they need more. So they're securing renewable energy sources. Oh man, got to give them a pat on the back for that. And they're also bringing back power plants from the dead, even nuclear plants that were decommissioned. And this trend has now been punctuated in the past few weeks with Meta and Google making new announcements for their projects. So first, we need to understand, what is a hyperscale data center? Well, a hyperscale data center is what it sounds like. It's hyperscale, it's massive. It can encompass thousands of servers, miles of connection equipment, and take up millions of feet of square space. In fact, one of Meta's new data centers being planned to be built in Louisiana is almost going to be the size of a Manhattan. Now, keeping these data centers online is crucial, right? You wouldn't want to go down so you would not be able to use your Snapchat filter or whatever. So these data centers are built with their own sources of power, dedicated energy infrastructure in case the grid power fails. Now, this dedicated energy infrastructure could be in multiple different ways. They could be pulling power from their local grid. They could be purchasing shares in an existing power plant. And they could also build dedicated plants on site, which is what companies like XAI and Meta are planning to do. And of course, they can even revive nuclear energy. And many big tech companies are searching for this. So there's just all this demand. So let's look at Google's environmental report, which they look at. You can see this graph on the bottom right here, and that is terawatt hours on the left-hand side. So their energy demands have it's something like quadrupled in the past 7 years and doubled in the past 4 years. And so in their environmental report, their total electricity consumption rose to over 30 terawatt hours, and that's mostly for their data centers alone. Now, how much is 30 terawatt hours? Well, a terawatt is 1 trillion watts. A home uses about 1 kilowatt. So it's a massive amount of power. A US home uses about 998 kilowatt hours per month. And so this amount of energy could power 30,000 homes for a month straight. And this is just one big tech company. Google is the biggest energy provider, but their energy user, but every big tech company is in the scale. So they maxed out their energy effectiveness, and now they need to search for alternative sources of power, such as geothermal, nuclear plants, and even nuclear fission, which is something that hasn't a type of technology that hasn't been used in production yet. Haven't had a working plant quite yet. And so Google invested in Commonwealth Fusion Systems, and they purchased half the output of the future nuclear fusion reactor, which is estimated to be completed in 2030. So they're planning out more than half a decade ahead. In 2024, Google announced a deal with Kairos Power to purchase energy using small modular reactors, which are just tiny nuclear reactors, kind of like the ones used in nuclear submarines. So they're planning their energy needs over 5 years out, and they're getting creative with the sources. Meanwhile, Meta closed a $10 billion AI data center. Let's check this out. Meta select Northeast Louisiana as the site of a 10 billion artificial optimized data center. The governor calls this a new chapter for the state. Now, this data center will take up 2,250 acres on a former farm, and it will be Meta's largest data center to date, and it's going to focus on training their AI models, such as Llama. And this data center is going to consume so much power that Meta had a collaboration with the Louisiana Energy Company and is going to build 3 new gas power plants for $3 billion, which are going to come online at about 2028 or 2029. And the energy demands for this one data center could power up to 2 million homes. That's absolutely wild. And then there are people, so this area, Richland Parish, LA, which is typically an area that has been struggling, but now is going to be home to this data center. And people looking at the project say there's no transparency. The deal that Meta has with Entergy, this power supplier, the local power supplier, has no information about who's going to handle the uptake in cost. Meta says they're going to cover the cost in building the new plants, but if the power demands are going to drive up the price of energy, it doesn't mean that local energy customers' rates won't go up. And so imagine being there, already being struggling, and now there's a data center driving up your electricity prices. Meta was also planning a nuclear reactor to help support the energy needs, but they're not talking about this anymore. Another very important big tech company is Oracle, which is part of Project Stargate and a collaboration with OpenAI. And they are also searching for nuclear power sources for their data centers, and they have gotten building permits for these small modular reactors. And these haven't been used in practice, and they shouldn't be expected until 2030. Microsoft is also bringing back the 3 Mile Island nuclear facility, and they signed a 20-year power purchase agreement with Constellation Energy. And this company runs over 20 nuclear reactors in the United States. Now, 3 Mile Island, you might remember the incident in 1979 in which one of the reactors had a partial meltdown and could have contaminated the entire Northeast United States. But don't worry. They're not bringing up that reactor. They're going to bring up the other one, which is reactor 1, reactor 2, I forget. But they have a lot of work ahead of them as they're going to have to restore it. But it's okay. The CEO, Joe Dominguez, is saying the plan is ahead of schedule. In 2 years, it might be ready to generate power. Yeah, when it's something like this, massive amounts of power, and a decommissioned nuclear site, it's just, they're on it. This is so important, driven by big tech money. All of these developments driven by big tech, all for the pursuit of AI, because we know it's the most important thing, right? This is something we're going to use. It's more important than water. It's more important than power. I'm being sarcastic. There's something bigger going on here with these renewable data centers. And now that big tech companies account for more than half of all renewable energy deals, they're intimately tied with the future of the US energy and the world's energy. I'm sure this is happening in other parts of the world. And this is just one part of the equation that, okay, fine, my energy bill goes up a few bucks. It's all good. I needed the emotional support of ChatGPT. But the other part of the equation is the water it takes to keep these hyperscale data centers cool and the environmental impacts of the data centers. So these data centers, let's look at Project Aquifer. Let me bring this on screen. This is a data center in Memphis, Tennessee, run by Twitter, previously Twitter, XAI, whatever the hell Musk is calling it these days. And they're talking about how this XAI Gigafactory, which is going to be training Grok and also performing learning for self-driving cars, is now going to be pulling water from the Memphis aquifer, the cleanest, the best water in the state, or in this part of Tennessee, is now going to be absorbed to keep these computers cool. They're also working with the Tennessee Valley Authority to get wastewater, and they could use up to 5 million gallons a day to cool this supercomputer of fresh groundwater from the aquifer. And then there's videos circulating online of locals complaining about how it smells terrible now that this factory is opened up. Watch this.
It smells terrible out here. The stench is horrible, and that's because of the air pollution that is going on. We know that there's about 35 gas turbines being used by this facility right now, and the Southern Poverty Law Center believes that is a violation of the Clean Air Act. But on top of that, this facility requires about 1 million gallons of water per day to cool down the supercomputer. The problem is Memphis sits on top of a natural aquifer, deep groundwater, pure good water that comes out of our tap. And for decades, activists have tried to protect the water because there's constant threats to it, including this right here. And this isn't just going to impact the people around here, okay? Maybe we drink the same water.
And one of the insidious parts about this is typically these data centers are opened in the poorest parts of the state. The Meta's data center is opening in one of the poorest parts of Louisiana. Here we are seeing parts of Memphis that Elon Musk is taking advantage of, and taking advantage is the right word. Exploiting is the right word, because the civilians who live in these areas are the ones that are going to suffer. They're going to shoulder the costs, the environmental costs, and the energy costs. Google consumes a ton of water, 24 cubic meters of water 24 million cubic meters of water. A cubic meter, guys. That's like, I don't know. What is a cubic meter? It's a freaking giant square of water. The giant square of water. Microsoft, 8 million cubic meters. Meta, 3 million cubic meters in 2023. And so they take this from city sources and from natural aquifers. And so at a time where the world is facing a drought, California especially is facing the drought, these data centers are taking all of the water. Why on earth are we allowing this? Is this going to benefit AI? Is this going to improve the lives of everyone? Is it going to benefit humanity? Where is this all going? Well, we can look to the words of Oracle CEO Larry Ellison. He kind of lays it out. He says, we're going to have supervision. Every police officer is going to be supervised at all times. Well, thank you for watching my back. I don't want to be hassled by the police. And if there's a problem, AI will report that problem and report it to the appropriate person. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we are constantly and recording and reporting everything that is going on. Could that be the real reason as to why there are so many data centers being built, why there's so many power demands for them? And so this ties into a grander agenda where every Ring doorbell, every Google Home, every big tech phone is constantly absorbing the real-time data around it, microphone, video, and it's feeding it into one of these giant data centers. So someone, somewhere can judge you for it, judge you for the things you're doing. Meanwhile, these companies are breaking clean air laws, clean water laws, and taking everyone else's resources. For what? All for what? Some AI tools that we don't need these giant data centers to run? It's absolutely insane. And the only way to stop these data centers is not to feed them with data. It's to not feed them with data. That's how you make these data centers obsolete. If there's no demand for the data centers, then it's a wasted investment. So we must quit big tech products and services and find alternatives as we quickly can. Otherwise, so much power will be held at these data centers and they will rob us of the world's natural resources.